facilitate synaptic connections in our brain health, as well as anti-inflammatory agents for our joints.
Dr. Maroon, well said, and I think the listener has a lot to think about and some secrets to lose weight. Certainly, many of those involve decreasing our carbohydrates and increasing our good fats. We're going to sign off now. Next week, we're going to discuss concussion, especially as we age, the head injuries that can occur with falls, and we'll discuss that next week. Thank you.
Excellent career opportunities are offered by St. Barnabas, and we all know that there is no I in team. So let's hear it from one of their employees about the power of teamwork.
Hello, my name is Emily Tahansky. Every day is different in the life of Resident Relations Director, whether it be a class, an orientation, or a new resident meeting a prospective resident or helping existing residents. Our staff works together to make sure that each resident has the best experience possible.
Find out about the exceptional career opportunities St. Barnabas has to offer by visiting stbarnabashealthsystem.com/careers for more information or by calling 724-444-JOBS. That's 724-444-5627. Find out why St. Barnabas is apart from the ordinary.
Thanks for listening to Living Well, a special segment on Beaver County Radio designed to help you enjoy the best, most fulfilling, and healthiest life possible. Archived podcasts of this episode are available on the St. Barnabas Radio Network streaming app. Living Well with Dr. Joseph Maroon and Jeff Boast is presented by St. Barnabas. Clinical information was provided for educational purposes and not as a medical or professional service. Always remember that the varying views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests on this radio show do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of St. Barnabas Health System, St. Barnabas Broadcasting, nor any organization the hosts may be affiliated with. Tune in next Friday at 12:30 for another insightful edition of
Welcome
Living
to The
Well.
Entrepreneur Life with attorney and author Rocco Koza, along with realtor and podcaster Eric McKenna. Content and sponsorship are being provided by Rocco Koza and Eric McKenna. Now let's join our show host for today's program on Beaver County Radio.
You know, I just waited a little bit just to hear that music, Matt, right?
Oh, I know.
What is the song again?
The song is called Happy by the band Public Image Limited.
Got it.
Fronted
Okay.
by the one and only Johnny Rotten.
It does make me happy.
It's a happy song.
It is.
The
It's
lyrics
good.
aren't real. Well, none of his lyrics, Matt, is, nothing's ever really happy with
No.
any Rotten lyrics. But
No.
generally speaking, it has an upbeat 80s kind of tone.
Yeah, I'm sure he was happy when it was singing them because it was getting out of the system.
Yeah, probably. And the people who tuned in are like, who are these people and what are they talking about?
We don't even know.
Friends, welcome to the Entrepreneur Life. Rocco Koza, Eric McKenna, and of course, Mr. Matt Durzik here every week on Saturdays from 10:30 to 12:30 on the Blowtorch of Beaver County Radio, coming at you live in the flesh, talking about entrepreneurship.
Yes, we are.
And today, we're going to talk about initial disappointments and working through them, or overcoming them.
Overcoming's a better word.
Okay,
Yes, I
working
like
through. The attorney's in the house. We're going to go with that. He likes the word overcoming. I like the phrase.
I just like
working
to
through
change
it.
words.
You do.
But hopefully the show won't be disappointing.
Yeah. Well, I think disappointment is the theme of the day. What do you think, Matt?
Oh, it's getting there. It's getting there.
Let's see how many people we can disappoint.
It's always worse when you disappoint yourself.
I never disappoint myself.
Right?
Well, let's tell you what.
That's a
we'll
pretty heady statement.
We're gonna dive into that, I'm sure.
Well, before we do that, when I do remember, I like to check in with Matt and review AM Beaver County, which Matt very expertly hosts on this here station Monday through Friday, 6:30ish to 9. And I just want to know what the vibe of the week was, Matt.
It was a relatively chill week, short week because of the holiday.
Yes.
But Thursday we talked with Lauren Doyle. She was she still is, the Parks and Recreation Director for Chippewa. They're having their community day today from 4 to 8.
In Chippewa.
In Chippewa at the right field.
4 to 8, Community Days, Chippewa.
Yes. And yesterday I got to do something really cool. I got to talk to Craig Patrick.
Oh, get out. Really?
Yeah, because he is the commissioner of a new hockey league called the Three Ice League.
Right on.
Which is sort of a barnstormer 3-on-3 type of league. It's kind of it's a little gimmicky, but at the same time, it sounds really fun and gimmicky. So
Is this part of his retirement?
No, he's the commissioner of the league.
Oh, it's like a real thing.
Yeah, so even at the ripe old age of 76, he's still trying to.
Wow.
And they got names in there like Larry Murphy, Joe Mullen, Brian Trottier.
Wow.
They're not playing; they're coaching, but they got like young college kids, former NHLers in there, and so.
Wait, Craig Patrick is 76. You said?
Yes.
Man, there is no human being that wears it better than that.
Yeah.
Holy smokes! Really?
Yeah.
Wow, I feel pretty good now. There's hope for me. That is awesome.
There's hope for all of us, man.
There's always hope for you.
Yeah.
Plenty of hope.
The fatalist over here. Oh, there's always hope for you. Hope, no matter how slim it might be.
Well, I said for you, not for me. So.
But remember, hope is not a strategy.
Hope is not a strategy, especially when you're an entrepreneur.
Right.
A budding entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Rocco's ready to go today.
He's
just
ready
like,
to go.
Let's,
Listen, man. Go right into
let's
it.
just drop deep bombs and unpack them right
well,
now.
Well,
It's been a week, Matt. It's been a week.
Oh, I hear you.
so, Frank Sparks, our program director here at Beaver County Radio, called and said that they were running some promos and doing some things. And what are you and Rocco talking about tomorrow? And this was yesterday afternoon or yesterday morning. And Rocco and I had 3 topics that we had yet to actually decide on what we're going to talk about. So, of course, it was up to me to make an executive decision, which I'm just so inept at doing. But I did it anyways because I couldn't reach Rocco.
Yeah.
He's an attorney. I can reach him in the middle of the day? Yeah, I don't think so.
I'm not sure you tried to reach me, but okay.
I had no choice.
No, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
How do you know? You better check your text messages.
I will
buddy.
check it. Yes.
So I determined on the disappointment subject.
Great topic.
Yeah, I think so. Meaning that when you start a new business or you going into this new venture, regardless of scale or ideas, it's naive to believe there's not going to be any disappointment, especially in the early time frame.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen, right?
You're going to be disappointed a lot.
Right.
And
right.
not just in the early, I mean, throughout the journey, you're going to have disappointments.
Yes, but early on, it could derail you, and it could take a great idea and never enable it to become to fruition.
Yes.
Because of initial frustrations. And I will share in a moment here how luckily I was able to work through mine, but they were heady and they were significant.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of the initial disappointment in entrepreneurship comes from the expectations you set. Because that's really when I think people, I know myself, right? A lot of the disappointment I had early on is because I set expectations that were unreasonable or weren't thought out, weren't very strategically planned. It was just, well, I just thought this is what it should be. And it's like, well, no, like that's not a good way of looking at the world. And I know a lot of people that I've dealt with, entrepreneurs and friends and colleagues that have had those disappointments in the early stages. 90% of the time, I truly believe it stems from your own expectations you set for yourself. Because you have no idea. Going into it, I mean, you could have every plan in the world, but you have no idea what's coming. You have no idea what's coming around the corner, like what the world's going to bring. The recession hits, inflation goes up, gas prices go through. Those change everything. So
economic factors,
100%. Things that are out, they're extrinsic factors that are outside of your control. Those, and you align those with unreasonable expectations, you're going to be disappointed over and over again. It's how you manage the disappointment, work through it, and overcome it is what's the key factor, in my opinion.
Absolutely, 100%. And it starts with a business plan, right? Even if it's written on a napkin, it's, and for some of us, like myself, my business plan consisted of all these crazy impulsive ideas in my brain that really weren't put on paper. I just kind of thought of it and just did it.
Yeah, I've never had a business plan. You know that?
Yeah,
I know. I just execute. And again, I think I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. It's just
it's a way.
It's a way.
It's a way.
It's a way.
I had
It's a way.
Again, I will share this because I think there's a lesson in here. There certainly was one that took me a while to figure out, but I had 2 things that happened to me. I had this idea, hey, I'm going to sell guitars on the internet. I don't see that any guitar stores are permitted to be dealers of any major manufacturer and be on the web. Now, this is late 90s, right? What an opportunity. They have all this inventory that they can't sell on the web because they're an official dealer. They need the customer to walk through the door. Me, I got all this money sitting here. Maybe I'll go buy this inventory. And while I can't sell it as new because I don't have a warranty and I'm not a dealer, it essentially is new. And maybe there's customers out there that will buy it because they don't care about a warranty if they can save a couple $100.
Yeah.
I found the niche. It sounded like it was so easy. Plus, I'll buy a bunch of used and vintage gear to supplement my income, and how can it lose, right? Well, the worst thing that happened to me happened. It worked. It worked right out of the gate. And I found that niche, that sweet spot of buying new product, reselling it as new, but with no warranty at a discount. And guitar buyers bought it.
Yeah.
And I thought that was going to last forever.
Yeah.
I mean, how could it not? Look how great it's working. Look how much money
Right.
I'm making, right? Oh, wait a second. A year in, dealers are now allowed to sell on the internet. Oh, I'm no longer needed. Oh, I was not ready to pivot because I was delusional into believing that my little game plan was going to work. My little scheme was going to work forever, right? So I adjusted and figured it out. Okay, and then a couple of years go by, and I'm really enjoying eBay. It's this new thing, right? In the 90s, you can sell things on this thing called eBay.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, right? I'm doing these auctions, and some of these guitars are being bid up to ridiculous numbers. And I'm laughing. eBay makes a global policy change. Well, if you'd like to continue to do auctions, we're going to charge you a final value fee whether your auction meets the reserve or not. All that means is whether the item is sold or not, I'm still going to pay a big
paying the fee.
Right. Doesn't matter if you get your money as long as we get ours.
Yep. Changed the entire dynamic of eBay overnight. It became a buy it now store environment.
Yep.
Which took the lucrative nature of my auctions, the money I was making, took it right off the table.
Yep.
Now I was further marginalized and just then also ran a guy with a lot of guitars that put them up on a store and waited for people to come and buy them, right? There was nothing intrinsically cool about that. So again, I was devastated.
Yeah.
Oh, and by the way, another thing happened around that time too, something called 9/11.
Yeah.
That was the first thing I thought of when talking about things you do not expect.
All that seismic stuff happened to my quote-unquote little scheme here, right? So another time has forced me, and that was a devastating one. I saw in a 3-month period, I saw my revenue decrease by 40%, 40+%. And I thought that was my new reality. If I had not pivoted and gone into different markets, and it required me to adjust and pivot. But the devastation of the disappointment, I was not in the beginning very mature in regards to my thinking and my processes, and I didn't take it well.
Yeah.
And it almost derailed me. Even the second time when it came around 2001, this new title shift in eBay, I thought, well, without eBay and that effectiveness, I can't make it. I almost gave up the ghost then too. So there were moments in this journey for me where outside factors I perceived to be so devastating that I almost let them derail the idea and put boogie street guitars out of business. Thank goodness I learned to pivot, and I found it within myself to find another way. I was stubborn, but the weight of those disappointments, Rocco, were real. They were heavy. So I get it, the concept of having things go sideways early on and how that puts so many small businesses out of business.
Well, but I think so that, to that point, I think going into entrepreneurship, you have to build some level of mental fortitude, because that's what it takes, right? You had that mental fortitude to work through it. The businesses that go under or give up because of initial disappointments, I don't think we're ready. Because if you go into this journey,
they weren't ready, or the person wasn't
ready. The person is what I mean. The entrepreneur. Sorry.
Okay.
Because I think if you go into this journey, you have to go into it knowing you're going to be disappointed over and over and over again, and you've got to build that mental muscle to deal with that. Because look, as humans, we err towards comfort. We want things to be easy. We don't like disappointment. We don't like failure. We just want status quo. But entrepreneurship's a different journey, right? So you have to look at it, okay, am I cut out for this? We've said that from the beginning. And part of that assessment is, can I deal with disappointment? Because it's going to happen. I mean, I've been practicing law for almost 20 years. We started the firm a few years ago. Disappointments all the time. I just work through them. I look at disappointments and frustrations as challenges that I can overcome that make me a better lawyer, a better leader, a better person, a better human being. That's my mental framework that I use to deal with that. But you have to build that mental framework, because if you don't have that and you just let disappointment come, you will absolutely get derailed. And 9% of the time you will quit because you're not cut out for it. And that's something that I think people need to really understand. It's a deep thing, but you have to be mentally cut out for this, because it is the hardest thing you will do. The stress levels are unheard of. The disappointments are going to come over and over again. Even when you think everything is going right, something will derail you.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not mentally prepared with how to deal with that, you are done, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's
not to be a Debbie Downer.
No, it does come back to the entrepreneur. If you enter entrepreneurship with a rather thick skin and you have some history of working through issues, and if you've maneuvered your life to that point in a way that's been you've taken challenges head on and kind of figured them out. Not that they're always fun, and sometimes they're very painful, but you've figured them out.
Yes.
You've got a good start. That's
Correct.
a good start going into entrepreneurship. But if you've lived a life where you've kind of, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you've kind of avoided challenges, or you avoid conflict, or adversity, and you would prefer a more easy existence.
Yep.
Just
get a job.
Yeah, it's probably not the road for you.
No.
And either way is totally fine. This is not a judgment call, but
no,
at all, not at all. It's just that disappointment is a factor, and early on, what I learned, Rocco, was that when I looked back on my disappointments, 2, 3, 6, 7, 10 years into the journey, I laugh at how seismic they seemed in the beginning.
Absolutely,
right?
Yes, 100%.
But as I sit here today, 20 years on, I look back at those initial disappointments, and I realized they were seismic because, number one, I made them that way in my brain.
Yeah.
But number two, from my viewpoint at that time, uniquely to my circumstance, these were global changes that made, the word pivot doesn't even come to mind because I had to do a wholesale reevaluation of what my purpose was to start this crazy project, because the way I marketed my product changed overnight.
Yes.
So I had to find different ways. Believe me, it's not a pat on my back. I did plenty of woe is me moments for a while there. Trust me, it was pretty pitiful and pathetic when I look back at my journal entries. It was sad, actually.
Yeah.
But in the end, we survived because I was able to recognize that it is a temporary setback. Let's get through it and find the next thing.
Yeah. And that's I like what you said, temporary setback. If you have that framework, right, that these are just temporary setbacks or small bumps in the road, then you'll overcome it. But it's when people create that framework that this is catastrophic. I don't believe anything in business is catastrophic, because if someone's doing what you are trying to do, that means it can be accomplished. You just have to find the path, the pattern, and the way to do it. People take this, these things that happen as catastrophic. They've made it. It's not. They've made it that way, which prevents them from actually doing what needs to be done. And I think people do that. I think people will turn a small problem into a big problem to avoid having to solve the problem.
I think it's a defense mechanism that actually has been exacerbated in society over the last couple decades.
Yeah.
In just common life, we've done that. I think
it's easy to play the victim.
And I think our social media pushes us to live on the extremes, and sometimes this extremes translates to our own thoughts.
Absolutely.
And oh my gosh, I got a paper cut. Now we obsess about this all darn day. When when you were younger and we were in a different state.
Put a Band-Aid on and move on.
Yeah, again, it's oversimplification, but it really isn't, because we are in a world where everything gets blown up to be something that it generally doesn't have to be.
Yes.
And I think if you do that to yourself, and that's when I want to bring Matt in here. The greater conversation really is disappointment and having the moxie to get through it, whether it's entrepreneurship or not. It's like, that disappointment thing in entrepreneurship in the beginning can seem so global and heavy.
Yeah.
And we're sometimes, I think, our own worst enemy in the way we define it in ourselves.
Yeah. Agreed.
I wanted to get Matt's thought on just in general disappointment and how we as humans digest that.
Well, I think you hit it right on the head with, and it hasn't been just social media, but it's definitely amplified it. It's a tale as old as time. Comparison is the thief of joy.
Always.
And what happens is that entrepreneurs who get into a business and they go through that stumbling block, they'll look at other businesses being successful, other entrepreneurs being successful, and thinking, okay, they've made it. I haven't gotten there yet. What am I doing wrong? Was this a mistake? And it is catastrophizing. It is this idea of just because, I'm not there yet, means that this is an issue. And again, we've said about this a billion times, we'll say a billion more. It's the journey, not the destination.
Yeah.
It's about getting over those roadblocks, like Rocco said, to sort of, realize, hey, if this is just a bump in the road, I have to treat it like a bump in the road and not a brick wall.
Yep.
And even if it is a brick wall, get over the brick wall.
And to your point, Matt, I love when you say when people look at, someone else that's doing it or is way ahead of them. In my mind, like flip the mental script. Say, okay, what can I learn from that person? Not why am I not there? It's like, okay, what did they do that I'm not doing that I can now do to get there? Because everybody has a different path, right? Everybody, there are other law firms that are way bigger than ours, way more successful, but started where we start. I don't look at them as like, I'm not there. I'm like, okay, let me analyze their model. Let me see what they did well, what they didn't do well, and how can we be different? How can I take things they've done and utilize them to grow the firm? But I had to change that mental script in my head. I had to not look at it as I'm not there, like woe is me, I'm not good enough, I'm not cut out for this. Instead, look at it as that's where I'm going. They've figured something out. What can I learn? What can I take from that and utilize to help me along the journey? The only person I'm competing with is myself. Like my goal always in everything is to be better than I was yesterday. Most days I win, some days I don't. But that's the competition.
But every day you learn.
Every day you learn. That's exactly. Man, that was great. Perfect segue. I mean, perfect timing, man.
Man, we are out like a cannon
Yes,
today.
we are.
Friends, the Entrepreneur Life, Rocco Koza, Eric McKenna, Matt Durzik. We will be right back.
The ballpark is coming into your living room or the dashboard of your car. That's because Pirates Baseball is on Beaver County Radio. Set the dial to WBVP WMBA 99.3 FM or 95.7 FM, and then turn the volume up to hear the most beautiful sound in the world. Pirates Baseball is sure to be a hit this year, and it's presented locally by the Beer Falls Municipal Authority, Express Employment Professionals, Dr. C. Timothy Lipp, Falcones Boone Township Board, Keystone Wellness Program, and St. Barnabas, among others, right here on Beaver County Radio.
The best of Beaver County is easy to discover. It's right here on your radio. Tune in Beaver County Radio or watch the best of Beaver County live on Facebook or YouTube video this and every Thursday from 11 to 11:30. The program is made possible by St. Barnabas. For over 3 years now, the show has been dedicated to shining light on the great things going on right here in your neighborhood and the people that are making it happen. This Thursday, enjoy conversation and insight from an intriguing lineup of guests who are creating excitement and having an impact right here in Beaver County. Your friends and neighbors at St. Barnabas are pleased to support the best of Beaver County. The radio broadcast will also be replayed each week from 11:30 to noon on Sundays on Beaver County Radio. Archived Best of Beaver County videos can be viewed on the WBVP WMBA Facebook page. It's your chance to encounter the best of Beaver County with host Mike Romai this Thursday starting at 11. For more information, visit beavercountyradio.com.
What if you were wearing something sexy? What if you were drinking? What if you made the first move? No matter what, sexual assault is never your fault. Support is available 24/7 through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Call 1-800-656-HOPE or visit RAIN.org. That's RAINN.org. This is Christina Ricci with RAIN, reminding you it's never your fault.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Beaver County Radio, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP and 1460 WMBA.
So, gentlemen, I started this crazy guitar thing journey. Literally out of my mind.
Started a journey?
Yeah, it was the start of a journey a long time ago.
That joke went right over your head, man.
Started a journey? What was it?
I said you started Journey?
I got it, Matt.
Thank you.
The
Rocco.
band Journey.
Come on. Yeah, I was never a big Journey fan.
Keep up.
Steve Perry quit.
Old man.
He shouldn't have quit.
Yeah, that was your time, too.
He quit.
He did
He
quit.
was so good and he quit.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't get it. I don't like quitters.
I don't either.
All right, so Steve Perry, you hear that? We don't like you.
Yeah,
You
don't
quit.
quit.
You quit. You were great, but you quit.
I was just trying to make a joke.
It was good. I'm not. Really
I got
down
the joke,
now
Matt.
I'm really
I
down
appreciated it.
Yeah, it was good. That went purely over my head. Now I'm back to the point. I'm trying to remember where my point was.
You said you started a journey.
Yeah,
into
I
guitars.
started this journey. But the thing was, I didn't know what I was doing, and that actually worked. I didn't have a lot of. We talk about inputs and comparing ourselves.
Yeah.
Matt said the thief of joy is comparison, right?
Yes.
Or something like that.
I love that quote, by the way.
Well, I didn't have anyone to compare my journey to because I was doing something relatively unique. So that probably served me well that I didn't have people to stare at and envy, so to speak, right? So I kind of was just so dumb in the situation, I just kind of figured it out.
Yeah.
But today, had I, rewind, had social media been a thing and had the internet been blown up bigger in 99, where I was getting all these barrage of either people who actually were successful or were pretending to be successful, and had I been ingesting all of that, those disappointments could have been more weighty.
Sure.
And I might not have overcome them. I'm not going to sit here and profess that I had all this internal strength, to overcome that. I don't know. I just know that I lucked out based on the timing of it all.
Yeah. I mean, in going back to the comparison thing, which I think is important, as an entrepreneur, you also have to operate with blinders on. Mm-hmm. That'll help you avoid a lot of the external disappointment.
It's easier as you get older.
It is. Yeah, because when you're younger, and I think your viewpoint on the world is a little bit different. Your perspective is slightly different. Like now, I'm going to be 45. Like I'm completely operating with blinders on, like a horse in a race. Like I'm just looking straight ahead. I see the vision. I see what we're trying to create, and through hell or high water, we're getting there. And I've just, but 2 years ago, I didn't operate that way. I was chasing squirrels. I was all over the place. So there was more disappointment because I wasn't focused. The moment I got focused, a lot of the things I was disappointed about, those little things, just kind of remove themselves from the situation. Because I'm not seeing them anymore because my vision is so focused on where we're going. Those little distractors that turn into disappointments are not even in my viewpoint anymore. And I think if you start operating that way, it makes life so much easier.
It is, and I want to bring up a short story about a mutual friend of Rocco and mine, David Allen, fashion designer, clothing designer out of Pittsburgh here. And I had a tremendous conversation with him at a Pirate game recently. We're sitting there because obviously the Pirate game wasn't entertaining us,
right?
But this conversation was fantastic.
Hey, that was our firm event. That better have been entertaining.
It was a Koza Law Group.
Yes,
event.
It was opening day.
It was opening day.
Yeah,
did they win? Yeah, and some
I don't even remember.
They came back. Yeah, I'm sure you. I'm sure you don't remember, but we came back. we came back that game and actually won in the rainstorm or something. Some craziness happened.
Yeah, I don't even remember it raining, but sure.
But anyways, I do digress. I was having a conversation about businesses and the current environment. I'm always fascinated by fashion. Not that I exude any, but I'm fascinated by the industry, right? Because we did Boogie Street clothing / T-shirts and hoodies, and we had some success doing that. So I was asking him his opinion on the industry. He said something to me that was incredible. It actually knocked me off my chair.
Okay.
We were talking about, he's in a very competitive, very visual thing. Clothing, design, fashion, all that. And we talked about competition and looking at styles and trends and so forth. And I said, who out there do you view as competition? And he said to me, he goes, I couldn't tell you.
That's the best.
I don't pay attention.
Yep.
I couldn't even tell you who my competition is in Pittsburgh, let alone nationally.
Yep.
I know I can see styles and trends and things. The big ones are always out there. The ones, the firms that have made it in like the GQ magazine or Vogue, they're out there. So naturally, we see in society trends that I take from everything.
Yeah.
But I'm not focused on any other designer. What you see coming out of me is not entirely original because we always take from what we experience. But it's not geared upon keeping up with anyone else out there. And I looked at them. And my mind just wanted to explode because in an industry that is so trendy and so all staring at each other to see what's the latest style, what's the latest waist height, what's the latest color scheme, patterns. He has got those blinders. Like
that's what makes them so good.
Yes, I took so much from that conversation.
Yeah, like great friend of mine, and I buy all their suits, and what I love about their business model is, well, and you're right, they're not paying attention to what everybody else is doing, but they pay attention to what their clients want and do.
100%.
Like so Krista, who does my suits, like I love because she knows exactly what I like. She doesn't overwhelm me with other choice because there's a million things you can do with custom suits.
For
Right?
sure.
Like I'm built stocky, so I have to custom suits work for me because I can't go and buy one off a rack. Yeah, we'll say athletic cut. Yes, but she comes in and she knows exactly what I like. The process is super simple. She comes to my office, we design it. It takes 30 minutes maybe. Knows all my measurements, then delivers it to me when it comes. Like so, they understand their clients. They know I'm busy. They come to me. She doesn't overwhelm me with stuff that I'm never going to buy. She kind of knows my style, will push me a little bit outside the envelope because she knows I'd like to try new things. That's what makes their business so good. It's not about the competition. They intrinsically understand their customers at a deep level and the needs of their customers.
But isn't that everything in the end?
Right, but most businesses don't focus. They say they focus on the customer, but I feel like David and his team, they look at each customer individually and understand how that specific customer wants to buy a suit or wants to get styled, and they operate to that person. They don't say this is our model and our customers fit into it. They say, how do we fit our customer's lifestyle? And that's what makes them so unique.
I would agree.
And that's just something to take away from just business in general. Like that's why you can avoid a lot of disappointments when you just start not focusing on competition, focusing on how to make your business better, how to treat your customers better. Because then then the frustrations go away. People get frustrated and disappointed when they're comparing, like to Matt's point, they're comparing themselves to others. They're looking at what the industry is doing that they're not doing. Instead of saying, maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe I can do it differently.
That's a good
point. That's what we've done. Like I said, why do I have to build a law firm this way? Why can't I do it? Because if I thought I had to do it this way, I would be disappointed all the time.
I feel like Matt has something to contribute here, so we're going to him. We're going to him right after this
Matt,
break.
Cut you off.
Is that all right?
That's okay. There will be a few minutes, but we'll get there.
Fair enough. Oh, it's up. Oh, going against the news.
The news, man.
All right, friends. You're listening to Rocco Koza, Eric McKenna, Matt Durst, The Entrepreneur Life on Beaver County Radio. Stay tuned for Town Hall News.
You're listening to 95.7 FM, 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls and 1460 WMBA Ambridge.
Breaking news this hour from townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. President Biden's abortion executive order will not make the procedure legal in the state of Texas.
The pro-life group Texas Right to Life says the order signed by the president Friday is an apparent attempt to appease the far left, adding the extreme wing of the Democrat Party has been calling for actions from Mr. Biden since the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade in June. But the group says the order is largely ineffectual and will not change the legitimacy of pre-Roe statutes of the Texas trigger ban. Right to Life officials say they're committed to protect all innocent human life and ensure Texas pro-life laws are fully enforced, including against executive overreach. Ron DeRockster reporting.
The Biden administration is asking the Supreme Court to allow it to put in place guidance that prioritizes deportation of people in the country illegally who pose the greatest public safety risk.
The emergency request to the court on Friday follows conflicting decisions by federal appeals courts over a September directive from Homeland Security that paused deportation unless individuals had committed acts of terrorism, espionage, or egregious threats to public safety. The guidance issued after Joe Biden became president updated a Trump-era policy that removed people in the country illegally, regardless of criminal history. An order from the Supreme Court is not expected before late next week. I'm Julie Walker.
Californians continue their exodus out of that state at an even faster rate as they head for places like Florida, Texas, and Washington.
A Federal Reserve Bank of Chicago study looked at relocation patterns dating back to the start of the pandemic. They found that COVID led to more residents leaving California at a faster pace. Taxes are extremely high in California, crime is rampant, and businesses are massively regulated. California's coronavirus mandates were also deemed extreme. Tasha Stevens reporting.
More of these stories at townhall.com.
This story is called The Ugly Truth About Timeshares. If you think you've done your family a favor by buying a timeshare, well, you need my help. Hello, I'm Chuck McDowell, founder and CEO of Wesley Financial Group. 10 years ago, I started helping folks cancel their timeshare. And the process started what's now called the timeshare cancellation industry. Timeshare is the only thing that you can buy that you can't tell me how much it's going to cost or when it's going to end. When you buy a timeshare, you give them a blank check to fill out any amount they want for annual maintenance and assessment fees. Sounds crazy, right? Well, the crazy thing is, this never ends. Stop the insanity today. Call my office now. I guarantee if we can't cancel your timeshare, you'll pay nothing.
Were you lied to when buying a timeshare and want out? Get the facts about timeshare cancellation. Call Wesley now for your free information kit. 800-691-9999. 800-691-9999. 800-691-9999.
Another dispute has arisen over the law enforcement response to the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas in May that left 21 people dead, 19 children, and 2 teachers. Here's correspondent Norman Hall.
Uvalde Mayor Don McLaughlin has challenged a new report that alleges missed chances to quickly end the massacre at Robb Elementary, one of the deadliest classroom shootings in U.S. history. McLaughlin said no Uvalde police officers saw the gunman outside the school before he went inside, and that none of the officers had an opportunity to fire on the shooter. Those comments contradict the findings released this week by tactical response experts at Texas State University. McLaughlin has previously accused state police officials of publicly giving an incomplete and one-sided account of an ongoing investigation. He says dozens of state troopers were also at the school at the time of the breach. I'm Norman Hall.
Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. A deadline for public service workers seeking student loan debt forgiveness.
So far, the forgiveness totals almost $8.1 billion in federal loans. But that's just a fraction of the debt that could qualify. The complex requirements on the application were relaxed last October and boosted the number of borrowers having their student loan debt wiped away. But those easier rules expire at the end of this October.
It's Ben Thomas reporting. Federal funding on the way to 85 airports.
The Biden administration says the $1 billion from the huge infrastructure bill will help airports to expand and upgrade terminals and other facilities. These federal grants are the first installment of $5 billion for airport projects. Denver International, Boston's Logan, Orlando, Dulles, and Pittsburgh International airports are among those receiving the most money for expansion and upgrades. Greg Clugston, Washington.
More stories at townhall.com.
It's radio that's apart from the ordinary and powered by St. Barnabas. 95.7 FM, 99.3 FM, 1230 WBVP, and 1460 WMBA.
All right, we're back.
Yes,
The
we are.
Entrepreneur Life, Rocco Koza, Eric McKenna, and Mr. Matt Durzik. We were, Rocco and I in this last short break we were on, we were cramming all this stuff in, and I could see Matt is just ready.
Yeah.
He's got something to contribute, and I felt like the next thing I know, we heard music, and I'm like, So now we're deferring to Matt.
Well, that's just me doing my job.
Coming out of the gate.
Yeah, I first of all, what Rocco was saying in the last segment about
not during the break, right? This is the last segment we're talking about.
Yeah, last segment. Not
We're talking about golf during the break. Come on.
Yeah, no. Definitely not.
How an amazing
These are feature
golfer I
reflecting the
am.
truth over there.
Yeah. It was talking about how, a client, understands, their audience and how they understand their clientele. And that's how you have to do it. And there are a lot of businesses out there that don't. A lot of businesses, like you said, they'll sort of create their own model and sort of do their own thing and then be like, okay, this is who we are, and we'll see who else likes it. And the problem with that is there's sort of this hard-headedness where it's either I'm doing this right because this was my vision and nobody else seems to get it, and, it becomes a failure.
Yep.
And I think...
That was me. It didn't become a failure, but your point's well taken.
Yeah.
Right. You sort of don't adjust. I think the biggest issue, though, we've been talking a lot about comparison, a lot about, keeping blinders on. There has to be that balance. And it's not an easy balance, but there has to be a balance between keeping those blinders on and not comparing your success to others, but at the same time taking those lessons from others without, copying them. And it's not an easy thing.
No, that's a really good point, Matt, because I think, when I say blinders, let me reframe that a little bit. So yes,
with a sole focus.
Right. Yeah, sole focus, right? I'm still looking at the industry because, to your point, right, as a lawyer, what I believe we've done differently is I've asked clients, like, why don't you like lawyers? Like, and
didn't we have an interesting conversation years ago?
I have,
about
yes,
that?
exactly. And I have a list of probably 10 things, and I'm like, we don't do any of those. So that's okay. We call people back. We tell them the truth. We
novel idea.
I mean, we don't talk down to them. We don't tell them what to do. We help them find what to do. Like, there are just little things that I went to my customers and said, what don't you like about my industry so I can do things differently? And if you ask the customer, they will absolutely tell you, but you have to take that information and then implement it. Because what happens, back to the disappointment topic, right? People go to these, they ask those questions, then they don't implement what the customer tells them, and it just leads to disappointment. So, well, why isn't this working? Well, because you didn't do.
Because it's becoming a show. They want to appear to be.
Right, they send out these surveys and we care.
It becomes
an
exercise of credibility, but there's no basis for it.
Yeah, it's credibility without responsibility.
Exactly right. Which is a lot of corporate America.
That's most of corporate America, unfortunately. I mean, there are some companies out there that do it really well, but back to the entrepreneur, like, I think a big way to help navigate or avoid high levels of disappointment is just understanding your customer and doing what they want. Like, not trying to fit your model, your square model, into a round hole. Build a round model. Like, build the right model that the customer needs.
It's such an interesting balance because in one regard, you hear the mantra, stay true to your convictions and be unyielding in your belief and believe in your product and what you bring to market. You hear all this stuff about how you shouldn't compromise on your belief and your ideas and all this stuff. At the same time, you and I both know pragmatism needs to play a role here.
A huge role.
And you need to adapt to external circumstances, customers, competition, the environment you're in.
Yes.
Well, it's an ego thing. It's what it is.
100%.
Yeah.
Because,
or stupidity at times.
Well,
both.
Both. But to your point, Eric, you talk about, staying, those the things where you have to stay strong, you have to, stand your guard. And when it comes to being in control of your business, being in control of your operations, that I can understand that because, to Rocco's point about, wanting to, sort of adapt to what your customers want, that is true. But there's always this sort of fear, this sort of mentality of, if I let them, give me advice, am I truly in control? And the answer is, yeah, you are.
Yes.
You can stay in control and be like, that's a great idea, let's try it out, without having to feel like you're just like, well, here's the keys to the company. And I think because of that, the reaction is usually the opposite, which is, okay, you're just not part of the system anymore. I'm doing fine. Get out of my sight. And it's all an ego thing.
It really is.
So light bulb went off in my head. I remember distinctly the moment we got the opportunity to design guitars with Washburn, right? Unbelievable opportunity. And I'd waited years to make this happen. I go in full steam. These are my 4 ideas for this guitar. Here's my ideas. So rigid. I was absolutely 100% convinced that this was what it was going to be. 100%. It wasn't until I listened to guitar players outside of my little genre, outside of my personal likes, outside of my vision, and what these guitar players wanted. It wasn't the style of music that I played or even liked. It wasn't the style of playing that I even understood. But in that particular niche of music is where I made the bulk of my money and success. And it was a crush to my ego that my initial designs fell flat. I'm admitting it here.
Sure, yeah.
But once I realized I can take the similar idea and apply it to my market and what they're telling me they want.
Yeah.
They dig what I'm doing. It just wasn't complete for them, right? It wasn't the whole picture. I was giving them half. I was giving them the cosmetic stuff. I wasn't giving the functionality stuff. And guess what's more important with music? Functionality.
Yeah.
Well, when I married those two, an explosion happened. It was an explosion of joy everywhere and financial rewards. And had I not taken that body blow to my ego, it would not have happened.
Yeah. Ego is a funny thing in entrepreneurship, right? Because to be an entrepreneur, I believe you have to have some level of ego. Because because think about it. You're saying, I'm going to bet on myself that I can figure this out and make money and depend on no one else.
In the beginning.
In the beginning. So that takes a level of gusto and ego and confidence. No, that's not a big word. We used that before.
It's a good word, though.
It's a great word. Definitely.
So you were using it?
Yeah. I did reuse it. Yes, I've used it a couple
Go
shows.
ahead.
I remember. I like that word.
Continue, please.
Continue. Thank you. So you totally derailed my train of thought. Thank you.
You're welcome.
But so you have to have this level of ego, right? What happens, though, I think, to really develop as an entrepreneur, your word of humility has to come into play. Because to go to your customers and say, what am I doing wrong? What can I do better?
Oh, that's a body blow.
What do you want? That's a body blow.
Yeah,
like,
but
because you're
so
admitting
powerful.
It's the most powerful question. Like, I've had to do that. Like,
Yep.
okay, what can I do better as a lawyer? Like, I don't want people to tell me I'm a terrible lawyer or not even a great lawyer, but I have to ask that question. Like, I got to ask that question to my employees. What can I do better as a leader? Like, those are body blows to the ego, but that's why humility is so important, because if I don't ask those questions, I'm always going to be disappointed. I'm always going to disappoint my customers. I'm going to disappoint my employees. I'm going to disappoint anyone that I'm partnered with in business if I don't ask what's important to them or what they want. Because then I'm just going to assume I know what they want and what's important, operate in congruence with my perspective, which may not be in alignment with theirs, which leads to frustration and disappointment. All I got to do is have the humility to ask the questions. And once you do that, everything changes.
Yeah. I one more short story. When I started playing guitar, I was told by my teacher that there's two styles of guitar player, because there's two styles of guitar, electric guitar, the Gibson Les Paul and the Fender Stratocaster.
Okay.
You know, your blues guys played the Stratocaster and your rock guys played the Les Paul. Of course, that's oversimplification and not true.
Sure.
But generally, that's a misconception. Well, no, I'm a rock and roller, so I'm a Gibson guy. So only Gibson guitars are the best, right? Only the Les Paul is the true guitar. Well, I ignored this Stratocaster style guitar when I first came into business. Just ignored it. You know, and essentially I wasn't addressing almost 70% of the actual market.
Wow.
Because I was so ego driven that, you know, I'm only working with the best guitar shape.
Wow.
It was that arrogance,
yeah.
You know, that I admit it. I look back now, what an idiot. For a couple of years there, I lost the ability to see clearly, and I missed revenue opportunities that were just enormous. When I finally found my brain, again, a whole swath of opportunity came.
Yeah.
It was just, at that time, not listening to the market.
Yeah.
Taking an arrogant stance that I know better. I don't want to be associated with that guitar shape. That's not who I am. Well, that was pretty stupid.
Yeah, I mean,
if I listen, the market will tell you. If you listen,
100%. Arrogance can get in the way of so much success.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've watched it with business owners I know and just people from my circles. You know, that they have this level of arrogance, and I get it, right? They've gotten to a certain level of success. So that if you don't manage your mentality correctly, a level of success can create a level of arrogance that is exponentially greater than the success you've achieved. I believe that, because you got to manage. You got to
wait. Repeat that again.
I said a certain level of success can lead to an exponential level of arrogance that doesn't align with the success you've achieved. Right? Like
1,000,000%.
You know, you start making six figures. Like, oh, I'm making like, no, you're not a millionaire yet. You've made 100,000. Like, it's different.
It's self-delusion.
It's self-delusion, right? So you got to learn to tone that arrogance down. But arrogance can kill success very quickly. I've watched it happen. Like, there's just, because what arrogance does, it prevents you from having the humility to ask the right questions to get to the next level. Because to get to any, as you progress through entrepreneurship and get to different levels in business, there are different questions you have to ask along the way. You have to become a different person along the way, right? But you got to have the humility at each level to ask the right questions. And if you let arrogance get in the way, you're always going to be stuck at this level. You're never going to move. It's like a game, like a video game. You're never going to get to the next level if you let this thing stop you.
So since I'm on the psychiatrist couch today, I'll just put another one out there.
You have a psychology degree, you know that, right?
For a long here we go. For a lot of my entrepreneur journey, I took my success and I thought that, man, some of these people, the feedback I was getting from some folks in my circle, it was that I was arrogant. I was getting it from friends, and I was also getting it from some people, some vendors, some business people. Not everybody, but some.
Okay.
And I said, well, it's probably they just don't understand my confidence. I'm just a confident person. I believe I can do something. I guess I exude that.
Mm-hmm.
As years went on, I became more self-reflective, and I went through some downturns as well as riding highs.
Mm-hmm.
When you look inwards, you realize, you know what? The difference between arrogance and confidence is the absence of humility.
That's 100% accurate.
And once I realized that I needed to embrace humility, and first off, I needed to even define it and even start to understand it, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
Once I did that, then I realized the difference between arrogance and confidence.
Yeah.
Then I was exuding confidence guided by humility. And arrogance was not part of the equation. Does that make any sense?
Makes that plenty of sense. How does that make you feel? That's the psychologist in me.
Well, now that I got that out, because I love bearing
Matt,
my...
I had to do it.
I love
I
love bearing my ills on this show.
When you look at this drawing, what do you see?
You don't want to know.
but to your point, I mean, that's 100% accurate, right? Because I think, I mean, absolutely that, arrogance is what did you say? Confidence without humility, or the absence of humility. I think, like, I believe I'm a confident person, right? Like, I believe if I've set my mind to something, I believe anybody can. If you set your mind to something, and you want it bad enough, and you're willing to do the hard stuff it takes.
As an entrepreneur, you have to have it.
Yeah, you have to look at the world saying, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it. Nothing's going to stop me. I'm just going to learn the path, right? But you also have to have that humility and that humbleness. Like, I know I'm a flawed person. I'm broken in many ways, but I also know that I have the confidence in myself to fix what needs to be fixed, to do the work along the way, to get to where I want to go. That is an important piece you have to to avoid disappointment in entrepreneurship.
We're going to Matt when we come back after this break, too.
I love it.
Friends, The Entrepreneur Life, Rocco Koza, Eric McKenna, Matt Durzik, every Saturday, 10:30 to 12:30 on 1230 WBVP and 1460 WMBA. And, of course, on the new 99.3 FM and
95.7 FM.
Very good, Matt.
All brought to you by
St. Barnabas
and available
at beavercountyradio.com.
We'll be right back.
Hi, folks. I'm with our good friend John Diagardi from Roe Monument. John, you were telling me earlier that people really should not rush into choosing a memorial for their loved one. Now, why is that?
We found that families need to take ample time to grieve first. Grief is not something that we get over, but rather something that we learn to live with. So the length of time to grieve varies from person to person.
You mentioned that the monument can't be placed right away.
That's right. There are certain things that need to take place before a monument can be installed. So it's really worth taking time to think about how to plan and design a memorial that truly reflects a person's life. It's actually a healing activity that helps to alleviate grief.
John, this makes a lot of sense.
It does. And when the time is right to proceed, not only can Roe Monument help families choose and design their memorial, we can help them save as much as 50% by eliminating the middleman.
Thank you, John. Folks, you can learn more simply by visiting RoeMonuments.com.
United States Deputy Sheriff's Association is a national nonprofit and America's largest non-governmental provider of services to law enforcement. USDSA assists city, county, state, and federal law enforcement agencies through our many varied programs, including free safety equipment donations, free officer survival training, cash donations, and condolence letters to the family of law enforcement officers who perished in the line of duty. USDSA also offers college scholarships for the dependent children of law enforcement, along with a citizen awareness program and thank you cards to law enforcement. These are just some of the ways United States Deputy Sheriff's Association assists America's law enforcement and the citizens they serve. For more information about United States Deputy Sheriff's Association or to see how you can help, visit www.usdeputy.org. United States Deputy Sheriff's Association, taking training to the next level because lives are on the line.
St. Barnabas thanks you for listening to Beaver County Radio.
Heading over to Matt.
Yes.
It's like you had some ideas last segment. We didn't.
Well, I'll start by sort of echoing what Rocco said during the break, which was, yeah, you're right about what you said about the
I'm
whole
arrogant,
thing.
I know.
Well,
I got to stop that.
Aside.
I didn't get any disagreement from him over there. Oh, that's a body blow, man.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I've been there too. But the whole thing between, having humility and having, I almost feel like you have to have a confidence in, or sort of a pride in being humble. It's kind of a weird thing, but you have to have that pride
Love
to say,
that.
Yeah, you do.
It's like, I'm going to be the best at listening to you, and you are going to be, the thing. And again, so many times it doesn't happen. So many times. And what stinks is that there are some people out there, and I think as, business people and entrepreneurs or just people in general, we see it where people do it the wrong way. They're not, they're deep down not great people, but they become successful despite the fact that all these things we're talking about, they don't do. They don't listen. They don't.
That is the mystery of life, though, isn't it?
It is.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It is. You're 100% right. But I think that, we don't see the whole picture of those people.
True.
So, I think to your point, Matt, I think listening in taking pride in that is the best skill set you can develop as an entrepreneur. I mean, really the ability, because people want to be heard and understood. Like as human beings, like that's one of a primal need we have. So if you can develop the skill set of just listening and not listening to respond, but listening to understand. Like when I was a young lawyer, another lawyer that was a mentor to me gave me a piece of advice, and he says, listen 75%, speak 25%. Now this is, we were getting ready for trial, and he was giving me that advice with a witness. He's like, people just want to talk. He's like, so if you're quiet, they'll tell you things they shouldn't. I've taken that advice and applied it in every aspect of my life. If you just listen to people, you'll get the information you need. You'll understand the customer.
You'll get more than you need.
You'll get more than you need. You'll really understand people's motivations, what makes them tick, because people don't like silence, so they will continue to talk. And two, if you make them feel and you actually do care, because you can tell when someone's listening to respond or listening to understand. And it's you can see it on their face. If you can build the skill set, which is a deeper level of listening and communication skill, if you can learn to listen to understand, like you will win hands down. In this game of entrepreneurship, if you can do that and build that skill set, that will help eliminate frustration, disappointment, and it'll put you on the path to success very quickly, in my opinion. But you've got to be humble enough to do it. And that comes back to your point, Matt. You've got to have that pride and humility.
Yeah, pride and humility. That's deep.
I'm getting deep, man.
It's good, though.
We're in the deep end today, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's been warranted, but
yeah, I have no problem using myself as a punching bag because I've gained humility over the years, understanding that my struggles can be helpful to others and certainly helpful to my children and so forth. I have no problem sharing, the difficult times along with the good times.
Yeah.
There's a tapestry there. When you become my age, you've got this length, the swath of experiences that have happened. Mm-hmm. Why not share what worked, but more importantly, share what didn't work?
Yeah, right.
Jim Rohn used to say this, one of my favorite quotes. He says, we have this whole motivation industry that I'm wrapped up in completely wrong. We're all bringing you it together in rooms and auditoriums and getting up on stage with music and with fancy suits, and we're just showing you all this energy and all what to do and how to think and be all this positive stuff. That's not the best way to do it. We need to go out and find the people that have messed up their lives, have messed it all up, and still might be messing it all up, and then bring those people in and get up there and have them tell you how they messed it all up.
Yeah.
There is your motivation.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, there's power in those stories.
That's powerful.
Well, it's like the drug PSAs. Do they use, people in shiny clothes saying, don't do drugs? No, they use people who have been through it.
Yeah.
They have, people who have, abused alcohol, cocaine, crystal meth, whatever you want to use in there.
Are you familiar with the YouTube channel called The Soft White Underbelly?
No.
I have not, no.
Yeah, make a mental note to check out that YouTube channel for that exact reason we just discussed. Interesting.
But yeah, going to your point, first of all, when you're talking about the whole self-help thing, it reminds me of the old George Carlin joke of, why is a self-help book a thing? If you're motivated enough to go out to the library and get the book, you're already motivated enough to do that. Put the book down, go home.
You can't argue with George Carlin.
No, I mean,
his stuff's he was pretty well thought out.
But that's a good point.
Yeah, but I think that your point's right, Eric. Where it's just if you learn from people telling you to always do it right, you'll never understand how to do it wrong.
Right.
And not that you want to seek to do it wrong, but you're going to. And at some point, going back to what you were talking about at the start of the show, where you sort of lucked into what you did with Boogie Street, and at that point, it was right, and then came the rule change, what made it seem wrong, and then all of a sudden, you have to pivot. So even when you're doing everything right, at some point there may become outside forces that could make it wrong.
So when we talk about humility, Rocco, weeks back, I think we said, or maybe even Matt said, it's like you need to be humble to realize that you don't have all the answers.
Right.
So you're humble enough to take on a challenge, to go ahead. But at the same time, you need to also be humble in other ways.
Yeah.
In dealing with your customers.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
In dealing with your vendors, people that are supporting your business. But you got to be humble enough to deal with yourself too. And this is, where Rocco and I Rocco's a very driven person and extremely, I know he beats himself up a lot and holds himself accountable to the umpteenth degree. I do as well, but not to the degree that he does. Probably because I'm older and got beaten up a little more in life. I don't know. But I also think, too, that we put so much stress as an early entrepreneur on us because the weight of everything's on our shoulders.
Yeah.
Once in a while, you got to walk away from it, find a little clarity, a little peace.
Yeah.
And it's nothing to do with laziness. It has to do with your mental state.
Agreed.
Find a little mental peace and realize I'm going to figure this out, but I'm going to figure it out in a better frame of mind, in a better state, because I'm not in the current state, in this disarray and this anger and this frustration to figure it out. And sometimes you just got to be humble enough to address yourself and figure it out when the time is right.
I mean, that's the biggest struggle I have, having that humility.
I'm sure.
I mean, because that's
how you're wired.
That's how I'm wired, right? So I look at, I have a huge responsibility on my shoulders, to take care of the firm and the people that work for me and their families. They come first. Like that's the role I have, and that's the responsibility and the burden I've taken on. So I don't take that lightly. Yes, there are many moments where I do need to take a step back and reframe my mental state. I have a very hard time doing that. I have a very hard, because I'm wired in a way where I'm always going 110 miles an hour, and if I slow down, I come to a screeching halt, and it's hard to get that motivation back. So I've had to learn to find ways to slightly slow down and pivot a little bit and give myself that mental clarity. But it's a challenge for me every day because I'm very self-critical. Like, I'm the most critical person.
Fix the problem.
Yeah.
That's you. See the problem, fix the problem.
Correct.
On the spot.
Yes. Like, I'm
close to on the spot.
That's how I think. I'm in the moment. Like, I can see it. I can see the solution. Okay, let's put it together. But there have been moments where I've taken that step back, and it does give me that clarity I need. I just sometimes don't recognize when I need it. Like, I run so hot that I sometimes have to hit the wall before I realize that I need that moment. And that's something that's a level of humility that I'm constantly working on, because it's hard. It's you have to be vulnerable, and vulnerability is a hard thing.
I mean, it's one thing to exude arrogance to the public.
Yeah,
it's worse when you exude arrogance to your own self.
Yeah, yeah.
That's way worse.
Yeah, it really is, and
then you become delusional.
Yes, absolutely. And I know myself. Like, I tend to think I'm the least arrogant to myself because I'm so critical on myself. Like, if someone tells me I'm successful, I'm like, no, I'm not even close to where I want to be. Like, I'm very critical of myself and where we are, and I know that I'm constantly looking to how to be better.
Doesn't that, in a way, now I'm putting you in the coach.
Yeah.
So doesn't that, in a way, and I want to get Matt's thought on it.
Yeah.
So what he just said, doesn't that go somewhat against the idea that you should be also enjoying the journey? If you're putting yourself in a constant negative framework that you're not where you need to be, 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 I get the benefit of it, but doesn't that go against enjoying the journey as well?
It can be.
Okay.
And I think it kind of goes back to sort of a little bit of a double standard we were talking about earlier this hour, which is, sort of taking pride in your humility, I think you have to take enjoyment in the pain, which is, it's a weird thing where you sort of like, if you're going to enjoy the journey, you sort of have to enjoy, you have to
struggle.
Yeah, you have to sort of, embrace the struggle, or maybe you don't have to enjoy it, but you have to embrace it. You have to embrace this thing of, okay.
Recognize that it's necessary.
Right. And you don't have to be obsessed over it, but Rocco, you want to say something?
No. I was just listening.
Over there.
My brain's in 50 places right now. No. I'm just
I just see that finger up, and I was like,
that's my thinking finger. That's my thinking finger, Matt.
Yes. But again, you sort of have to embrace that, because I thought about that myself, because I'm thinking, you take that step back, because I know we talked about in past shows where, if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a successful entrepreneur, it's a constant thing. And I think Rocco was the one who said it. It has to be a constant thing. Yeah. But part of that constant thing is, again, just like life itself, there are going to be ups, there are going to be downs, and there's going to be forces out of your control. And you have to sort of embrace that. You can't, you don't have to, put a happy smile on and, delude yourself into thinking everything's okay. But you have to sort of be like, okay, this is life now. This is how things are. Let's try to get through it.
But I want to reframe what you said from the beginning. You said, you have to enjoy it, but how can you enjoy it if you're in that negative frame of mind? It's not a negative frame of mind, in my opinion. Like that, me being critical of myself is not negative. That's me growing. Like that's how I look at it. It's because if I said I'm good, like I'm done, dead in the water, because I am constantly critiquing the way I do things every single day. That's how I know I'll get better. So it's not a it's a very mentally exhausting frame of mind. It's not, and I love what I do every day. Like, I love the journey. I know. But I know that to keep getting better and to go where I want us to go, I have to be critical. I have to critique myself on a day-to-day basis. I will never get to a point in my life where I feel I've arrived. Yeah, I will always.
That's how you're wired.
I always say I live blissfully dissatisfied. Like that's how I look at it. Like
I love that.
And that's it. Like I love what I do every day, but there's so much more I'm going to do.
And I think going sort of back to a point that was made earlier too, Rocco, you say, just because, you're self-critical and you're always pushing to think about how you can do things better, doesn't mean you're doing badly.
Right.
You can always do better without doing badly. It kind of goes to the point 100%. That Eric was making earlier about, the way that, the modern age of social media and everything else has sort of turned a lot of people's minds into extremist thinking. Whether it's political, whether it's personal, it's an extremist 100%. Mindset that if it's not the best, it's the worst. And if it's not the worst, it's the best. No, that's not how any of this works.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, like I look at my industry and I say, okay, if people think they've arrived, great. Because that just means it's more business for me. Because I'm going to keep, because if you think you figured it all out and you're in my industry, I'm going to eat you alive eventually. Because I'm constantly looking at how to get better. What can I do differently? Like what, and it's a constant evaluation process. Like we were talking on the way here, the evaluation we're doing with our team this week. 100%. Like I'm going to probably evaluate myself the most critical of anybody. And, and I'm the one that's leading the firm. I'm going to be the most critical on myself. Like I gave myself plenty of 2s in this rating because that's how I look at it. Like I'm looking at it from my perspective. But I think as an entrepreneur, if you're not constantly evaluating yourself, like
you're dead.
You're done. You're done. Like and I think that's just in life in general, right? Because what is the point of life in enjoying life if you're just gonna be? Like because that means you feel like you've arrived, like you figured it all out. You're good. Okay, like if you're in your 20s and you're like I'm good, like you have 70 more years. Like what are you gonna do? Like it's just it's
naive to believe that because you feel good now that you're good. Yeah. You're always going to feel this way because there's going to be so many more things coming at you.
Exactly.
That's just life.
Yeah, and life moves so fast now, so much faster than it did 10 years ago.
It sure does.
And people need to understand that this journey. We're trying to bring it back to the disappointment. It will be disappointing. That's okay as long as you are mentally in the space to deal with it and learn from it. Because those disappointments and frustrations are powerful markers along the way. Like I know when I feel those moments, like this week I had a bunch of moments of frustration. I know what they meant, and now I know what to do. But I had to feel them to make myself become aware of these are the changes that need to be made.
100%.
So I looked at it as that was a learning lesson, and it was a good thing that happened.
To put it in another metaphorical sense, because we use the term disappointment, and one of the phrases that it's sort of a common parlance in society is, whenever you're a kid and you do something bad, what's the phrase you always hear? I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I got a lot of that when I was young.
But if we think about that, we sort of take a step back to look at those moments. Were our parents mad? Possibly. Were they disappointed? Possibly. You know what they didn't do? They didn't come in with an axe and, take our heads off. Right. So
speak for yourself.
Well,
I'm kidding.
Well, you're
I'm still
here.
here. I'm still here.
Well,
yes.
even if they went old school, went up with the belt, it's still just a belt. It isn't the end of the road.
Correct. Yep.
And entrepreneurship is sort of the same way, where you may get that belt, you may get that disappointment, you may get that bad review on Yelp or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so be it. If you're gonna let that one thing take you down, you're done.
It's like, you almost have to have, we use that term thick skin. I guess that's an all-encompassing kind of thing. It's like, I would think that, again, I recognize I started in 98, 99. I didn't need to have the same skill set that I would need to have today.
Right.
Emotionally, that I would need to do the same thing today. But that word fortitude, that internal fortitude to realize that a disappointment is for what it is. Yeah. Big, large, small, doesn't matter. Exactly. It's there. It's part of the journey. And that word is so overused. Average band. Good singer. He quit early. But that word is so overused. My argument is that it's only part of the process. Just like this success you had.
Yeah.
When you start putting the successes way up here and the disappointments way down here, for those that are watching, streaming, it's like that is not helping you balance it out in yourself. When the highs are too high and the lows are too low, what are you doing? But that's such the way that a lot of young entrepreneurs work, I think. Everything's cataclysmic. Cataclysmic joy. Look at this sale. Look what I made. Look at my new car.
And I think that's where where Rocco's term of blinders comes right back in. You have to sort of narrow that focus. You don't. And when the one thing I thought of is, you can use blinders, but it doesn't mean you're blind.
Yeah. Yes.
You
absolutely right.
Sort of see the outside forces, but you know that they're there, but you don't have to focus on them. Because I think, going to your point, Eric, about the highs being too high and the lows being too low, if you sort of use that as your parameter, your sort of vision of understanding, and a lot of people, even like me, like I work in news radio, I work in talk radio. So we're getting perspectives from all over the place. Perspectives on the far left, far right, far this, far that. It can get exhausting.
I can't imagine.
It can get so exhausting.
I'm getting barraged all day long.
Yeah.
But extremes of all philosophy.
But at some point, I have to be like, okay, I'm just going to narrow this down to what I want to focus on talking about. Yep. And if I don't do that, if I sort of, empathize with the rest of the world in every given situation, it's going to hurt me.
So and let's take this topic, editing, human editing, and how it relates to looking at the inputs that are coming in. And because you encounter a disappointment in your first month of entrepreneurship, and all of a sudden, if you're not using sophisticated thinking, it may be something that's really kind of can be solved and is not going to sink your ship. Right. But if you make it out to be cataclysmic, right, you can intentionally or unintentionally sink your own ship because of it. Only because you've been maneuvering for the past 20 years or 10 years in an environment that just shown you that everything, good or bad, needs to be blown up and taken to the furthest extension of what it possibly could be. You're maneuvering in this environment, and you could be in a convenience mart, and someone is not getting satisfaction at the counter, and all of a sudden they're going postal.
Yeah,
that's an example of like taking the minor things in life, the remedial things almost, and blowing it up to extreme. Well, if you translate to that as starting a new business, if that's the mentality you go in, I'm going to guess it probably isn't going to go well. Whether it's real successful or real disappointing, you're going to drown in the extremes of either.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go into it, to come to your point of editing, right? You have to go into it saying, I know there's going to be highs and lows. It's my job to edit them close to the middle. Like I have to create the mental framework of no matter how great or how bad it gets, I got to stay close to the center line. Because once you stay close to the center line, you're going to keep moving forward, right? It's the path of least resistance, that center line. Because you can ride the waves up and down, and if you let those waves take you too high or too low, you're never going to get back to the center line. Like that's when I talk about like 100%. Work-life balance, I say the same thing. Like there is no such thing as work-life balance. My job is to know center line and stay close to it. So if I'm working too much one week or not working enough the next week, I've got to stay close to that. And I operate that. That is my framework in most things in my life. Where is my center line and how do I operate as close to it as possible? Because there's always going to be ups and downs, and it's my job to navigate those. You know, from disappointment to joyous success, I cannot let either one of those pull me to an extreme because there's already too many extremes in the world. From the news, from everything going on, there's already so many extremes trying to pull my brain and my mental capacity in one direction or the other. So I have to know my center line, my center beliefs, my center values, my center morals, and stay as close to that as possible.
It's kind of like if you the image that I just painted, what you're saying, Rocco. It's like you're walking through an open field, like an open cornfield, and there are three magnets. There's a center line, there's the far right, and there's the far left. And you have to make sure that your magnet in the middle is the strongest that leads you back.
Yeah,
because if the other one if the other ones pull you, you know, it weakens the one in the middle.
Yep.
You know, you're going to be pulled into a direction you don't want to be taken.
Yeah, and most people today, and I will say the harsh thing, have not built the mental strength to not be pulled to the extremes.
I would agree with you.
Like we have become mentally weak in this country.
Yeah, well, I think it's shown every day.
Yeah,
I think, and it's sad. And
yes.
And I don't say it to be hurtful to anybody. I'm just an observation. I agree with you.
Yeah,
we become. I believe this too. I believe that we have become mentally weak because a component of that is it's just easier to be mentally weak.
Yeah,
and we've taken the lazy way out because life in America is kind of easy.
Yeah, it is. It is.
I mean, it's different for every person, like what's going on in their head space. But to exist in America, it's easier than it's ever been.
Yes.
You can literally just exist if you want to exist. And again, that's not the mental framework of an entrepreneur, of course. That's the direct opposite of that.
Correct.
But in terms of like editing what comes into you, editing the disappointments is certainly important, but editing the successes could be more important.
Absolutely, because if you let that get to your head, like that's the thing. That's when the arrogance comes into play. That's when you start losing the ability to have humility. It can impact
and then
everything.
You can't deal with the disappointment. If if you expect everything's riding high, and I was having a run for a while there, and I was expecting every single sale to be smooth and every single transaction and no shipping errors, and I had never had a UPS claim, and I had never had a negative eBay feedback. I've never had this and this and this. Well, nothing is going to always be smooth, right?
Right.
And so when that first body blow hit, it was like cataclysmic.
Yeah.
It was something that I could have solved in 2 minutes.
Yep.
But it ruined my day. Might have ruined my week.
Yeah. And
it's an immature way to operate.
And what you have to understand, too, is as you grow in business, those moments happen more, right? Like when I was a smaller firm, like I didn't really have clients were easy to deal with. Now it's like as we've grown and we have larger clients and a bigger, we're going to have more of those moments of like there's some friction here. Like we've got to figure this out. There's a little bit of disappointment, and it's just you have to build that strength and that mental fortitude, like we keep saying, to deal with that because it's hard.
Disappointment and increased disappointment
yes.
can be a tell of success.
Absolutely, yes.
Right? And that's a philosophical bent to look at it that way. But that's what's staring right in the face. I mean, those disappointments are happening because you're, first off, I commend you because you're doing something.
Yes.
You know, sometimes thinking about an idea and actually executing it, two different things. So when you get to the execution part, I commend you just for that reason. You have taken the idea and put it in motion.
Yes.
You're on your way. But that disappointment is basically a tell that you're doing something, probably something good towards your goal, towards your thing, right?
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
No, because if you're not facing frustration or disappointment, you're not trying hard enough.
Exactly.
You're not taking as much risk as you should.
It's a tell. It's a tell of business
Absolutely.
activity, and again, but it is a mind. And the reason I think it's interesting to talk as a 56-year-old guy here, it's interesting to talk about it because I can see differences in societal editing of personal inputs and editing how we react to things that happen in society. We are living and we're taking events, and exploiting them to the magnitude of just either cataclysmic or absolute superlatives, right?
Yeah.
Nothing can just be, okay, the highs aren't too high, the lows aren't too low. I'm good. I'm just rolling in the middle, loving life. A little bit above average, you know, and I'm rolling. I have some goals out there. I know things are great, but not taking the highs too high, not taking the lows too low. That's how my grandparents would lecture me to live my life, right? And I used to go, yeah, whatever. But now when I look back and I listen to that stuff, they had it figured out.
Yeah. Yep.
That was the better way to live, especially as a new entrepreneur, for goodness sake.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, because we live in a world where we have to sensationalize everything.
Sensationalize.
Like that's really what it is.
That's the word.
That's what it is. So as an entrepreneur, if you start doing that, sensationalizing that first success or that first failure, you're done. Because that's why I say that you have to find your center line. It's a very important concept to understand, because that is your guiding path. If you don't know what center line is, then you don't know where to even begin to start editing yourself. So I have to know where I'm going and kind of what that path is. And I've got to make sure I don't let certain things into my brain that'll cause me to sensationalize them.
So,
tell me.
I was going there, but you just gave me the driveway right there.
Alley-oop.
Alley-oop. You certainly did. What about the concept of editing what you're being told from your circle when bad things happen or good things happen, especially when you're a young entrepreneur? The people that are closest to you that are giving you this verbal input, whether, oh my gosh, look what you've done, it's fantastic, it's so great, you're so great, or you're sharing with them a disappointment and they're going, oh, well, I told you it wasn't going to work, and I told you it's just too hard, and you need to manage those inputs now more than ever.
I have to change the circle.
And we're going to talk about that on the other side of this break. The Entrepreneur Life, Rocco Koza, Matt Durzik, Eric McKenna. We will return.
My name is Eddie Crow. I host a talk show. It's called Teleforum. It is on right here every weekday from 9 till noon. Monday's show, Aaron Bernstein will join me. He is the state representative for the 10th District. There's a ton of things happening in Harrisburg. Aaron's never been shy to share his thoughts on those things. He'll do that Monday morning on Teleforum, 9 to noon every weekday right here on 1230 WBVP and 1460 WMBA and 99.3 FM and 95.7 FM, presented by St. Barnabas.
Falling in love is one thing. Having anxiety about falling is a whole different subject. If you or a family member are concerned about falling, and yes, either up or down the stairs, or maybe even out of bed, St. Barnabas has a special message and some ideas just for you. Years of experience in working with people who are prone to falls has given St. Barnabas special expertise in this area. Call them at 724-443-0700 and learn about ways that you can begin to feel more confident and safe, including suggestions that you can implement right now into your daily routine. Call St. Barnabas at 724-443-0700. For many years now, St. Barnabas has been helping people fall in love, that is, with their new, better life, a longer life, a risk-free life. Call St. Barnabas now at 724-443-0700 or visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com and learn more about living longer and better.
Ready for our little forest adventure?
Yes! So much waiting for me. Yeah, I wanna go outside. I wanna be.
We're here.
Whoa, that was fast.
There's a forest closer than you think. Find a park or forest near you and music inspired by nature. DiscoverTheForest.org. Brought to you by USDA Forest Service and the Ad Council.
We've got so much to say that we need 4 radio stations. 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM, and our newest edition, 95.7 FM.
breaks are something here.
They're amazing.
They are amazing. We should actually film those and then edit them.
No.
Strongly.
Okay, yeah. I was about to say no, and then you said edit them strong. I was like, okay, we could kind of do that.
I was talking before the break here, and we got a couple minutes before the news, but I think we should close the show out at this next segment and then the next two segments talking about a very uncomfortable subject for a lot of folks, and that is the entrepreneur is going to run into some disappointments and so forth. We know we got to overcome those. Some of the disappointment tends to be negative criticism from one's circle.
Yes.
Now, granted, I also think overly generous applause from your circle when you encounter success can also be very damaging.
Yes.
But for the moment, let's talk about negativity coming from the circle, which would only exacerbate if you choose to share your disappointments.
Your circle is absolutely critical to your success or failure in life. Will be very indicative of your success or failure in life. I've learned that over even the past 5 years, like how my circle has changed tremendously, because it's just different relationships now. You want to be around people that see the world like you do and are going to push you, but also be critical of you. Not so negative and critical are two different things.
Absolutely.
So if your circle is just telling you, yeah, you're an idiot, why would you do that? That's a dumb idea. That's the wrong circle. Like, that's the wrong circle. Your circle should be saying, okay, have you thought about this? What if this? What if this happens? How would you handle this? Have you prepared for this? They're asking the critical questions, not just feeding you negativity. So you need to really look at your circle
critically.
Critically, yes. And if they're giving you purely negative inputs as you're discussing your journey or you're discussing the path you're looking to take, that is by far the wrong circle, in my opinion. I've learned that myself. If they, on the other hand, are asking you very thoughtful and critical questions, like making you really think at a deeper level, have you thought through all this? Because like when I left corporate America, I had some people in my circle who's like, that's a dumb idea. Like, what are you doing, dude? Like, why would you leave a bunch of money and benefits to do this? Like, that's a stupid idea. I had other people that said, you could absolutely do it, but have you thought about this, this, and this? That's the right circle.
Have you considered?
Have you considered?
That's how I used to judge my circle in the beginning.
Yeah, it's a
I
great
used to go, if someone comes at me and starts laughing or scorning me, I kind of easily identify what the problem is there with my relationship with them.
Absolutely.
But if they start out a relationship or they're thoughtful, and if the words "have you considered" come out, then that's probably someone I want to listen to and keep around.
Absolutely, because that they care. One, that shows they care.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it shows they think at a different level than most, because they're looking at a situation that is not their own, right? Because it's very hard for people to look at situations outside of themselves, outside of their own egocentric situation, and ask questions, right?
Yep.
So if you have someone that's actually going to look at your situation and ask those critical questions, like the "have you considered," that is a very good tell that is a person you want in your circle, and your circle needs to be tight. I believe that. Like, I look at, I probably have 5 to 6 people now that I rely on, completely with just any questions I have, or just that used to be maybe 10, 12 people. And it's narrowed so much because I understood how to weed out the people that didn't make sense anymore.
I think age and moving through your life will slowly shrink your circle.
Yeah.
But entrepreneurs have to do better than that.
Absolutely.
They need to take that attrition, but also increase it where the inputs coming in are not serving them anymore.
Yeah.
It's a harsh thing to say, and I'll take the heat for it.
Sure.
But what I'm saying essentially is that when you decide to move away from someone or remove someone from their circle, it doesn't mean that's a bad person. Okay. Let's just say this. They're not. It could be a great member of society. It could be a great member of the church. It could be a great member of your organization. It could be a great friend to others.
Yeah.
It could be a fun guy to see or gal to see once in a while.
Yes.
Even to socialize with a little bit. But to have a consistent input that is not serving you.
Yeah.
And when I say serving, it sounds self-centered. I don't mean it that way. Generally. But the idea is those inputs are very important in general.
Yeah.
But they're very important to you if your constitution inside is rather weak and you let these inputs come in when you really kind of know you need to not. Okay, that was me. My constitution was a little weak. I couldn't let go of some lifelong friends that I had, and not let go totally, but remove them from my day in, day out inputs. Yeah. Right? Because my constitution was weak. I didn't want to hurt feelings. I didn't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Well, that didn't serve me well. It didn't serve my journey well. And then slowly I figured it out. It is a tough conversation or it's a tough circumstance to be in lack of conversation. It's even worse. And it's not fun. We love so many people in our lives, but not all of those people need to be giving you inputs daily that can affect your life, your quality of life, and your business.
Yeah, I mean, I look at, where I am in life. I look at a relationship has to serve me and source me. Like that's what it does. Like in pure a relationship of social nature, that can be the point of that relationship. It could be like, this is a pure social friend. Like, we're not going to talk business. We're just going to have a good time, grab a beer every once in a while, go to a ball game, go to a concert. Like, that's the sourcing of that relationship. But other relationships, people that I spend my time with and choose to bring into my circle, that relationship, one, we have to serve one another, and two, we have to source one another, meaning I have to get energy and give energy into that relationship. That's what I mean by sourcing, right? Because there are certain things I need in life and in business and from people in my circle that's why that relationship is there.
100%.
There are people that give me straight advice. There are people that help me see the world differently. There are people that would challenge me. Those are sourcings that I need, and I give that back to those people. But that circle has gotten completely constricted over the years because I had to do the work to figure out which ones made sense.
It's just a more sophisticated way of running your life.
Yeah, it is.
And again, I don't use the word sophistication from a position of arrogance. I'm using it from a position to explain the thought process that one can go in if you're honest with yourself and analyze your inputs.
Yes.
I mean, I will tell you, I moved away from quite a few people when I became an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I turned them into social friends as opposed to what I would say a close friend.
Yeah, agree.
And it isn't always fun, but it was necessary.
And it's okay.
All right, friends, the Entrepreneur Life, Rocco Koza, Eric McKenna, Matt Durzik. Y'all stay tuned for Town Hall News.
You're listening to 95.7 FM, 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls and 1460 WMBA Ambridge.
Breaking news this hour at townhall.com. I'm Bob Agnew in Washington. People continue to leave Ukraine's Donetsk region as Russia shells residential areas with heavy artillery.
Every day, around 300 people leave the area on evacuation trains, but around 350,000 are remaining in the region, the Donetsk governor said earlier this week. We waited too long, but finally I decided to save my child and myself, Slovyank's resident Olena, who didn't want to give her last name, has told the Associated Press. Olena says while on board a train waiting for it to depart, there was shelling by every weapon that exists. Even children now know all their names. Officials urge people to leave the area as Russian forces continue their assault and the region becomes more dangerous. I'm Charles de Ledesma.
COVID is no longer a top priority for Americans.
A new poll from the Associated Press NORC's Center for Public Affairs Research shows an upheaval in priorities just months before critical midterm elections. 40% of U.S. adults specifically name inflation as one of the top 5 things for the government to work on next year, a sharp rise from 14% in December. In all, 77% mention the economy in any way, up from 68% in December. Personal finance is also a major issue, 44% mentioning it, and that includes more concerns about gas, energy prices, and food costs. Rhonda Rockster reporting.
Border Patrol agents did not whip or strike Haitian migrants last year, according to a lengthy internal affairs investigation concluded yesterday. But some agents did use excessive force, it says, by positioning their horses in the Rio Grande to try to keep the migrants at bay. Customs and Border Protection Commissioner Chris Magnus says one agent did yell denigrating comments.
There is no justification.
And this is townhall.com.
Charlie Dombeck here from Key City Capital. As a practicing CPA for nearly 30 years, I have found that 80% of your ability to grow your wealth is dependent upon two factors: taxes and investment performance. At Key City Capital, we improve investment performance by diversifying capital into off-market investment opportunities in passive rental real estate and alternatives like asset-backed lending. We recover dollars that clients unnecessarily pay in the form of income taxes, creating a lifetime annuity of savings. We are a sponsor of passive, affordable single and multifamily residential rental investments, which are located in Sunbelt landlord-friendly states. These investments are the top choices in a rising interest rate and inflationary environment. They represent a store of value, protecting your capital from market volatility. Learn how we at Key City Capital can help you ultimately grow your wealth rapidly. Connect with me at keycitycapital.com or give me a call at 817-912-1569.
The Brooklyn Public Library in New York is offering a free library card to anybody in the country aged 13 to 21 who wants to read a banned book. More details from correspondent Ed Donahue.
The program is called Books Unbanned. Nick Higgins with the Brooklyn Public Library says more and more book titles are being taken off library shelves.
The American Library Association even came out with a report that there were over 1,600 banned books reported to their office last year, which was by far the most they've ever had.
The titles that are being banned involve LGBTQ voices or Black Indigenous voices.
You have books like Genderqueer, which is the most challenged and banned book of all of last year, according to the American Library Association. All Boys Aren't Blue is another book that was highly challenged.
Since April, 4,000 young people from all over the country have signed up at the Brooklyn Public Library to check out a book online. I'm Ed Donahue.
Breaking news and analysis at townhall.com. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen is going to push a price cap on Russian oil during an upcoming visit to Asia.
When she travels to the Indo-Pacific next week, Yellen will use the trip to make the U.S. case for a price cap on Russian oil aimed at reducing revenue to the Kremlin as it presses ahead with its attack on Ukraine. The Treasury Secretary plans to address the economic and humanitarian challenges wrought by Russia's war. Yellen will first attend G20 finance minister meetings in Indonesia before making additional stops in Japan and South Korea. Greg Clugston, Washington.
Starting tomorrow, it will cost more to mail a letter.
The U.S. Postal Service is raising its rates once again. First-class Forever stamps and 1-ounce domestic letters will go from 58 to 60 cents. The price of registered and certified mail, return receipt, and signature confirmation will increase as well. Tasha Stevens reporting.
More on these stories at townhall.com.
Now thundering through the valley on 4 powerful radio stations. It's Beaver County Radio on 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP and 1460 WMBA.
We were just talking about looking the part and living up to other people's expectations. You know?
Yeah. Well, again, that goes back to what we were talking about earlier. You know, getting feedback from your audience. I think one thing that entrepreneurs tend to fail to do is consider part of that audience or another audience that they have to consider is their employees.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of times they'll just say, okay, you're doing this now. And while you do have to keep the functionality of them and keep them sort of, in the loop of how to do things differently, you don't want to do it in a way that can upset them. You don't want to do it in a way that it's just that feels unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I know. Would the right word be brevity? Or is that a bad in your actions?
Yeah, though, I mean brevity is
that's more
part
shortening.
That's shortening,
concise, right?
Yes,
Okay. That's the wrong word. I tried to sneak a word in there, but I just had the wrong
we'll give
context.
you credit for using it.
Yeah, it was.
I get half credit.
Yeah, we'll give you half point.
Half point.
Half point.
That's okay, man.
Clarity, right?
But yes.
But to your point, yeah, and like I said, I was never at the point where I actually had a solid workforce and employees. Rocco is there now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there now. So yeah. When you grow this firm, I know you like to instill the entrepreneurship mantra in your folks, right? And that's unique in itself, right?
I hope so.
I think so. Yeah, for sure. How do you walk that line? You know, like, because you're asking the employee to edit their inputs to a degree and think like an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, they're, at least at the moment anyways, they're in an employee-employer relationship, right? So is it a mindset you're looking for?
So yes, and I've created an environment where they can be what we call an intrapreneur.
Intrapreneur.
An entrepreneur within a
learning
company.
Things.
Right.
Okay.
So because that's the framework I've created, right? This is not a traditional law firm model. It's like I'm encouraging you to develop your own brand and your own business within the business.
Okay.
I give you the tools. I give you compensation for it. I will give you whatever you need to do that. So they have the opportunity. It's on them to take advantage of it.
Okay.
Right? I can walk my line. I can walk my path. I can set the example, mentor, and guide, but I can't do it for them. I've just created the environment that they're not going to get anywhere else to be an entrepreneur within a law firm, to literally build their own practice within a practice.
That's pretty unique.
Yeah, I think so, and we compensate them for that, and we give them tools, and we do. I invest a lot of money in marketing, and branding, and community involvement, and getting out there, and just putting our name out there, so they have an opportunity to take advantage of the dollars I spend and the effort I put in to build that. But that's on them to do it, right? I'm encouraging entrepreneurship, and we're building an organization that I want to be full of entrepreneurs. And if they commit to it, anyone that comes into the firm commits to the vision and commits to what we're building, they will be wildly successful with the success of the firm.
Mm-hmm.
I can promise you that. But
I believe that.
But it takes a level of operating. It takes a perspective and a viewpoint. And you have to see it a certain way, and your actions have to be in alignment with the commitment you're saying you're making.
Right.
And that's any business, right? You have to find the people that are committed to the vision and then act in alignment with it.
I'm going to turn back to the subject before the break, though. Talk about editing your circle.
Yeah.
So we had not gone to you and getting your – I told you how I needed to edit my circle.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't always comfortable, but I want to hear a little bit about your decision and when it happened that you needed to take a hard look at some of the relationships from a time standpoint and from an input standpoint.
I mean, that's a constant it's a constant process, right? So I think when I left corporate America, it was kind of like the first gate where I started to see I had to start evaluating certain things. Because there were just certain people I knew that just, if you're saying those things to me, you don't get me. You don't understand what I'm made of. You don't understand, how I'm built. So that relationship doesn't make sense anymore. Now, we're still acquaintances, still friends, but there's just certain editing I had to do there.
Got it.
Right?
Got it.
I think as I grow as a leader, as the owner of a firm, as a lawyer, I have constantly looked at people in my life and say, and I'm always asking, one, am I serving this person? That's my first question. Like, am I serving this? In my relationship with this person, is it serving that person? Is it some benefit to them? It's got to be that first, and then I look at the reverse. Is this relationship benefiting me?
Got it.
And that could be from a mentality standpoint, someone that I as a confidant is someone that I can trust and ask questions to, and will give me real hard advice or real hard critique. I don't want yes people.
Mm-mm.
I don't want people to say you're great. I don't want people to I want people to actually look at what I'm doing critically and call me to the carpet.
Did you have that exact mentality the moment you started this business?
No, it develops. It develops over time because yeah, absolutely it does. It's because you don't want to look at it that way, And it's like when I started working with Mike, my business coach, like that helped me a lot to really start looking.
Shout
at
out
things.
to Mike, great guy.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, he's helped me tremendously, but I had to start taking a critical look at myself first, right? Like all the flaws I had, and then I had to say, okay, these people that I'm in relationship with, are they serving that?
Right.
Because that is looking at yourself and your circle is a very difficult thing to do.
Most definitely.
Because sometimes you have friendships from years ago that you get to a point and realize that I'm not that person anymore. I'm not that guy that was in relationship with this person.
Mm-hmm.
That person may be the same person. I am not.
Mm-hmm.
So is this the right relationship? And I think people need to start assessing that because we all grow differently as people. we all go in different directions. And sometimes we try and force friendships or business partnerships to keep working when the paths have diverged so far. And it's really hard to get them back. And sometimes you have to look. 'Cause I'm thinking of friendships I've had that I'm still friends with. I will always do anything they need, and I will always help. But I don't put the effort into the friendship because it doesn't source anymore.
And there are times where you need to be bluntly honest with yourself, be fearless.
Yes.
Understand that in life, you got to break a few eggs.
Yeah,
the harsh way to put it, but there's not everything is going to be, unicorns and sunflowers.
No.
It's just not going to work that way. Some people are going to get their feelings hurt, whether you do your best to make sure that doesn't happen or not.
Yeah.
We are incapable of keeping every relationship perfect. Does not happen. And you need to be, for lack of a better phrase, you need to be selfish at times.
Yes.
And what's going to serve you and your journey. And quite frankly, especially in the year 2022, you really need to guard the inputs into your brain because if you are not selfish and edit the inputs you're taking in, worrying about the other person's feelings are the least of your problems.
Right. Absolutely. And I've watched a lot of entrepreneurs have these relationships with either business partners or just people in their life that are anchors. That I'm like, I know how successful you can be, but this person is holding you down. And I can see why that person is. It's not my job to tell them as their lawyer.
Right.
I can kind of lay some breadcrumbs, lay some hints, like, hey, you may want to look at this. But that's a self-assessment they need to do. Every entrepreneur needs to do that, right? If you're not accelerating at the path you want, and there's relationships that don't feel right anymore, or business, sometimes it's a business partnership that needs to break up because they're just seeing the business from two different perspectives. And one may be right, one may be wrong, but they won't let go. And that's something you have to do. That's a hard discussion.
It's a hard discussion. And I think at the end, everybody, not everybody, I said a lot of people that I know well that have been successful at doing this have done it with the forefront of kindness there. Obviously, we're not here to hurt anyone's feelings. Neither should you.
Right.
That shouldn't be the forefront of anything. But there are inputs that are coming at you all day, especially in 2022. It's a strange time we're living in.
Very strange.
And if you cannot, again, it seems like I bring 5 or 6 Jim Rohn quotes in a show. I can't help it. It's like guard the gateway to your mind.
Yes.
Now, when that was told to me in the 90s, that wasn't too hard. You selected a book to read. Yep. You turned to one of 8 channels.
Right.
You turned, you found a TV show to watch, right? If you had a conversation with someone you didn't like, it was probably because you were drunk and decided to stay there, or you just kind of moved away from it. You didn't feel any social obligation to belong to a group.
Yeah. Yes.
Or a conversation, right? It was easier then. I think guarding the gateway to your mind today is extremely more difficult than it was in 93.
Yes.
I mean,
we have access to information at every second of the day.
We have, how do I say this? We get blunt force trauma of information every day. We don't even want it. It's just it's sent to us.
And it's not just the information, because people would say, all these different events happen. It's not just the events themselves. It's everyone's reaction, which in and of itself is information.
Yes.
Because now you not only do you know how what happened, but now you know how people feel about something happening.
And shame on us, because to carry what you just said even further to the root of the cause, it's how the person is bringing it to you.
Yes.
It's who they are, where their bent is, where their motivation is. I mean, we're talking about how we react to it. Yeah, but shame on us. If we're dialed into stuff that we know is caustic to our brain and going to get us all charged up, even if we believe they could be right. Listen, I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh all the time. I thought he was kind of funny. And he didn't have a lot of competition in the early 90s, mid-90s, right? And generally, I slanted conservative in the way I viewed life, so it was an easy listen for me until it wasn't. Until I started really thinking for myself and realized that, you know what? I don't want to be in lockstep with anybody. And then he wasn't as funny. Then it was caustic for the sake of caustic. And it kind of happened in the late 90s during the Clinton scandals. But that's kind of where I started to realign that, hey, I might still philosophically feel the way I do, but this isn't the right person to deliver it to me. Because I come out of these hour sessions on the radio, not feeling good about life, right?
Right.
But again, I don't know how this happened to me. I'm glad it did. But that was an example where I needed to, edit my input in an era where, it wasn't that difficult.
And to go back to something we were talking about earlier, it's the same principle with, taking advice from a customer or sort of bowing to the customer's will. There's a difference between listening to somebody and bending on their every word and being like, okay, well, I agree with that. Don't agree with that. It's that editing, like you say, that sort of takes play into that.
Now, Rock and I talk about it all the time. It's like you're ultimately responsible. You're ultimately responsible for what you ingest.
Yeah, and how you react to it.
That's the bigger key.
Yes,
100%.
Exactly.
And I think that you hear and see things in society that sometimes tend to make me believe that people want to be okay with just saying anything or doing anything, that it's acceptable. Well, yeah, I guess it's not illegal, but
right.
Is it ethically right? Is it the civil? Is it civil? Is it you can't grade these people and extract punishment for their behavior. But in terms of you need to grade them in terms of your own input, right? I mean, we need to discern enough to realize this is not going to serve me to be either involved in it or to ingest it. And that's a hard conversation to have if your internal constitution is based upon emotional and intellectual laziness, which is a lot of our society.
One of the most important things that I have learned over the course of the last couple of years, and one of the things I think a lot of people struggle with, is that just because free speech is legal and cannot be considered illegal does not mean that there are not any consequences.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, there's consequences to everything you do, right? I mean, I think people... Look, I'm a constitutionalist, right? So I believe in the Constitution. But to your point, Matt, you're exactly right. Like, there's consequences to every action you take. Like, that's the way the world works, right? There's every action.
But a lot of people don't understand that.
Well, that is exactly right. That 100%. It's and a lot of times when it comes down to speech, it's an interpretation or an opinion that has the most consequences. Because people just take information, factual information, and spin it in a way that causes such a catastrophic reaction in people. And it's like, no, this is just a fact. And because the way they've spun it has turned it into this terrible negative situation.
No, we're also intellectually lazy in this country. I mean, that's just proven every day.
Correct.
Not everybody, but a good swath of the population just wants to react to things. It's more fun.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go. The Entrepreneur Life, Rocco Koza, Matt Durzig, Eric McKenna. We will return.
Rev up your engines. It's time to celebrate summer in a GNU way. GNU's Body Works has everything it takes to make you the star of the show at this year's car cruises. It's time to restore that old ride to its former glory. Call on Gary Snare and his team at GNU's Body Works with over 20 years experience. Gary cares about your car almost as much as you do. He can get your motorcycle ready for the road too. GNU's handles collision and general body repairs. So get ready for the happy days ahead and call GNU's Body Works, 8th Street in Freedom.
Tune in every Saturday morning at 8:30 a.m. for another insightful edition of Living Well, a special segment on Beaver County Radio designed to help you enjoy the best, most fulfilling, and healthiest life possible. Hosted by Dr. Joseph Maroon and Jeff Boast, and presented by St. Barnabas. Living Well, Saturday mornings at 8:30. Right here on Beaver County Radio, WBVP Beaver Falls, WMBA Ambridge, along with 99.3 FM and 95.7 FM.
I'm State Senator Jim Brewster. This summer, many Pennsylvanians will spend time on our beautiful rivers and lakes. Please follow these safety tips to enjoy those special moments fishing and boating. Remember to wear a life jacket while boating. It's simple, but a life jacket really does save lives. All children aged 12 and under must wear a life jacket. Don't drink while boating. The rules are the same as driving a car. Officers will be on patrol looking for signs of impairment. Have a float plan. Before you head out, send a text to someone and let them know you're on the water. And don't forget to check the weather forecast. For more information of safe boating, visit my website, senatorbrewster.com or www.fishandboat.com. I'll see you out on the water.
St. Barnabas thanks you for listening to Beaver County Radio.
Okay, as we clearing up this is a heck of a show. Cleaning up the last segment of our show. Before we do that, a couple things. To reach Rocco Koza, it's kozalaw.com.
That is correct.
COZZA law.com.
Yeah.
And he's not a general attorney. He is a business and entertainment attorney. A fantastic one, as a matter of fact.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yes.
You can reach me, friends. I am your personal realtor here. I've been saying that on this station for a long time. And Beaver County's been so good to me, my family, by helping promote my practice. I'm always, always, always appreciative. You can reach me at ericmckenna.com. And I also want to point out that at ericmckenna.com, Rocco and I further discussion in a more unvarnished way sometimes on the Eric McKenna Project, our long-running, long-form conversational podcast. I guess the youth, they call it a podcast. I call it a talk show. I don't know what it is, but it's there. Facebook, YouTube. It's on Apple, Google, Spotify. You can download the Eric McKenna Project at ericmckenna.com. And I want to announce right on this show a couple things. Rocco and I do a bi-weekly series called How We See It.
Yes.
Where we take current events and just two non-media guys, regular Joes, just talking about life. You know, and it's been very well received. We're very appreciative of that fact. And I want to thank you on air for doing that with me.
It's my pleasure. It's such a good time.
It is. And we do a series of shows called the Four Friends series, too, where we curate shows with four people. Sometimes they know each other. Sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And we take heady topics and have fun with it.
Oh, yeah.
And out of this kind of discussion, selfishly for me, it's helped me grow as a person, helped me think and challenge my beliefs and challenge my thought process. And I know you feel the same way.
Absolutely, man. I mean, the last show we just did was just super deep, and it made me think a lot. So I appreciate it, and thank you for that opportunity.
And I also want to announce on this show that while we don't have the date, Matt Durzik has accepted an offer to come on and be a guest on a one-on-one sit-down, which I'm very much looking forward to, sir.
You'll become the third member of Beaver County Radio to do so, I believe.
Yes, you will.
Following
yes, you
Mark
will.
and Eddie.
Yes, you will. Yes, you will. So in the coming week or two here, we're going to be doing that. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to cutting it all up with Matt in an unvarnished, relaxed setting.
I can't wait. I can't wait to watch that one.
It's gonna be fantastic.
We're gonna get you to cut loose a little bit, man.
Maybe.
Maybe unhinge you a little bit.
But Matt, I appreciate you doing this.
Absolutely.
Very, very much looking forward to that. It's gonna be fantastic. But again, it's ericmckenna.com to see all that stuff and inquire about my realtor practice, and of course, it's Koza, COZZA law.com to inquire about Rocco. Rocco does a lot of speaking engagements. He does a lot of things that I don't do. I don't know where he finds all the hours, but he's a fascinating guy. He won't say it. I will.
I appreciate
Go to the website and dive into his history. He has also given a TEDx talk, which is beyond impressive, and that's all on YouTube. If you can't find Rocco Koza on YouTube, you're just not looking hard. But that's how you connect. You can also connect with both of us there. So that's that long-winded, blathering commercial, but that's pretty much who we are and why we're here talking about entrepreneurship, because we are. I don't think we're serial entrepreneurs, but we are living, breathing people that, by the grace of the powers that be and our own hard work and gusto, as Rocco would say, we kind of made it work. And you
gotta take the shot. I mean,
gotta take the shot.
It starts with taking the shot.
Gotta take the shot.
That's really what it boils down to. If I could give somebody one piece of advice, and if you just take the shot, I mean, what's the worst that can happen? You go back and get a job, okay? Like, it's. I'd rather take the shot and fail than not take the shot at all.
Yeah, because you got to live with the wonder. I mean, I don't believe in the word regret, but you will live with the wonder of like, wow, what would have happened had I done it?
Yeah.
You know? That's the thing. It's tough.
It is, because it's scary. It's like we said, people like comfort and safety and security, and that's what a job brings people. Entrepreneurship, it is super scary, but it is, I look back, and every day I wake up, I do feel truly blessed to be able to do what I do, and and have the people around me that I'm able to surround myself with, and to build what we're building. Like I truly feel blessed, and it took a lot of hard work and a lot of sleepless nights and a lot of stress, but we're here, and I wouldn't be here if I wasn't willing to walk away from something else, and that was a hard decision to make, but I made it, and I wish I would have done it 5 years sooner.
Selfishly for me, you'll laugh when I say this, but here we go again. But again, a book I read, Jim Rohn, and he said that in the book, and it's called The Art. It's actually not a book. It's a series of At that time, it was a series of cassettes I listened to.
Oh,
but the name of the program was The Art of Exceptional Living, and I think that is the finest session with Jim Rohn. But in there, he said the following, and whether, again, take it with a grain of salt. But he said, a career will make you a living. Entrepreneurship will earn you a fortune.
Yeah.
And all that meant to me was that, hey, if I want to do something different, and if I want to see how much money I can earn, I probably will have a better chance at doing that as an entrepreneur. And that always kind of stuck in my head, like, hey, I'm going to give it a shot.
Yeah.
I didn't know if that'd work, and I always had confidence that I could do something. I'll be okay. I think that that's, if we got a second, I think that is a feeling that most of us could adopt, because I think most of us do good things. I think most of us have a skill set. Most of us are good at doing things. We probably just aren't walking around with enough confidence in ourselves that, hey, if we try something and it doesn't work, I can go back and do something similar. I'm going to be okay.
Yes.
So I think generally most of us will be.
Absolutely right.
It's just it really is kind of an obstacle to get over.
Yeah.
And I don't have any answers on how to get over that. I just feel bad at times because I've known people that had great ideas that did not execute them because of the fear of like what they will potentially lose. And I get it, but this one person was so skilled. It was like, there are 20 companies that would hire you tomorrow had you become available. But you got this amazing idea. Take a shot.
Yeah.
You probably would get hired for more than you're making today.
Yeah.
If you failed at this idea.
Yeah.
But like I said, sometimes just really look inside, I think, and evaluate your talents and understand them, and understand that in the end you're going to be okay.
Yeah, because people ask that question, well, what if I fell? Well, what if you succeed? Like, ask the other question. What if you succeed? It's because you're never going to know until you try. And to me, it's not, entrepreneurship is not about money. It's not about fortune. It's about building a lifestyle and a life that you get to live every day. That's what it's about.
There's the segue to next week, which you'll only be. Anyways, Rocco will be at a golf outing next week.
Yes,
but I'll be here. He'll be calling in. Join us again next Saturday, 10:30 to 12:30. Man, I'm like all discombobulated. Matt, thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Matt.
Absolutely.
The Entrepreneur Life on Beaver County Radio. For Rocco Koza, Matt Durzik, I am Eric McKenna. We'll see you soon.
Yep.
Thanks for listening to The Entrepreneur Life with attorney and author Rocco Koza, along with realtor and podcaster Eric McKenna. Content and sponsorship have been provided by Rocco Koza and Eric McKenna. Tune in next Saturday at 10:30 a.m. for another edition of Your Entrepreneur Life right here on Beaver County Radio.
If it's Saturday afternoon, it must be time for Solid Gold Saturday. Whether you were cruising through the parking lots of Jerry's and Hank's or dancing at the Rochester Legion, these are the hits that Beaver County remembers. Solid Gold Saturday is brought to you by Gnu's Body Works, Bushy's Electric, the Pennsylvania Hot Rod Company, the Laughlin Insurance Agency, and J&J Spratt Funeral Home. Now your host for Solid Gold Saturday, J.D. Merkel.